I was born in Pretoria, South Africa in 1971. My childhood wasn't extraordinary, but I was curious about almost everything. I read a lot, probably 10 hours a day when I was a kid. I didn't have many friends. I spent most of my time with books and computers. When I was around 10, I got my first computer, a Commodore VIC-20. I taught myself to code because there wasn't anyone around who could teach me. At 12, I sold my first video game, called Blastar, for about $500. It wasn't much, but it showed me that you could create something out of nothing. School wasn't easy. I got bullied a lot. I remember being pushed down the stairs once and ending up in the hospital. But the thing is, pain teaches you something. It teaches you how to stand up. My parents divorced when I was young. Life at home was complicated. So I started dreaming about somewhere else, a place where ideas mattered more than who you were or where you came from. For me, that place was America. I used to look at the night sky and imagine people living on other planets. That idea, that humanity could exist beyond Earth, stayed with me my whole life. After high school, I left South Africa, first to Canada, then to the United States. I didn't have money. I worked odd jobs, cleaning boilers, cutting wood, just to survive. But I had a clear goal. I wanted to be where the future was being built. When I got into the University of Pennsylvania, I studied physics and economics. I wasn't interested in making money. I wanted to understand how the world works, energy, space, technology, the things that shape the future. During that time, the internet was just beginning. I saw it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Everyone around me wanted safe jobs. I wanted to build something that mattered. In 1995, I dropped out of Stanford after only 2 days. The internet was exploding, and I didn't want to watch from the sidelines. That's when my real journey began. When I started my first company, Zip2, I didn't have an apartment. I slept in the office and showered at the YMCA. We couldn't even afford a second computer. So at night I'd code while my brother slept. Then he'd code while I slept. Most people thought we were crazy. But we believed the internet would change how people did business. Zip2 helped newspapers go online. Something simple now. But back then it was revolutionary. After a few years, Compaq bought Zip2 for about $300 million. I made my first real money, around $22 million. Most people would have stopped there. I didn't. I used most of that money to start another company, XCOM, an online bank. People said, banking on the internet? That'll never work. But I thought, why not? Everything else was moving online. Banking should too. XCOM eventually became PayPal, but it wasn't easy. There were fights, disagreements, sleepless nights. At one point, the board removed me as CEO while I was on vacation. I came back to find out I had lost control of my own company. That hurt. But looking back, it was a lesson. You can't control everything. Sometimes you build something not to own it, but to move the world forward. After PayPal was sold to eBay, I made about $180 million. That could have been the end. I could have bought an island, relaxed, and disappeared. But that's not who I am. I had 3 dreams left. Make humanity a multi-planet species, build sustainable transportation on Earth, and create clean energy for the planet. SpaceX, Tesla, Solar City, those were the names. But they were more than companies. They were my way of saying the future can be better. 2008 was probably the worst year of my life. Everything I had built was falling apart. SpaceX had failed its first 3 rocket launches. Each one exploded before reaching orbit. Every failure cost millions of dollars and years of work. And every time, people laughed. The media called SpaceX a vanity project. At the same time, Tesla was on the verge of bankruptcy. We couldn't produce enough cars. Investors were losing faith. I had already put every dollar I had into these companies. I was borrowing money just to pay my rent. I remember nights when I slept on the floor of the factory. I wanted to be close to the team, close to the problem. When people saw me there, tired and dirty, I think they understood. This wasn't about money. It was survival. I had to choose between SpaceX and Tesla. I didn't have enough money to save both, but I couldn't let either die. So I split what little I had left and hoped something would work. The 4th launch was our last chance. If that rocket failed, SpaceX would be over. I remember watching the screen in silence as Falcon 1 took off. The minutes felt like hours. And then it reached orbit. I didn't cheer. I just sat there quietly. After all those years, after all those failures, we did it. A few weeks later, NASA called. They awarded SpaceX a major contract to deliver cargo to the International Space Station. That phone call saved the company. Around the same time, we secured funding for Tesla, literally on the last day before bankruptcy. I still don't know how we made it through that period. Maybe it was luck. Maybe it was stubbornness. But I do know one thing. Giving up was never an option. People sometimes think success comes from being smart. It doesn't. It comes from refusing to quit. That year I lost friends, sleep, and almost everything I owned. But what I gained was something no money could buy. Belief. When people look at me now, they see success. But what they don't see is the path that nearly broke me. After SpaceX survived and Tesla started to grow, people called me a genius. They said I had a Midas touch. But that's not true. I've made more mistakes than I can count. I just never stopped learning from them. SpaceX's first successful rocket didn't make us rich. It just bought us time to try again. Tesla's first electric car wasn't perfect, but it proved that electric cars could be cool, fast, and desirable. Every step forward was built on thousands of small failures. That's how real progress works. I never started these companies to make money. I started them because I saw a future that needed to exist. A world powered by sustainable energy. A future where humans become a multi-planetary species. That's what drives me. Not comfort, not wealth. The idea that humanity can and must go further. Mars isn't just a destination. It's a symbol. A reminder that we were never meant to stay in one place. We were born to explore, to build, to dream. Sometimes I think about my childhood in South Africa. I used to sit alone, reading science fiction and wondering what the future would look like. I never imagined I'd be building it myself. But here's the truth. You don't have to be a genius to change the world. You just have to care deeply about something and be willing to suffer for it. I've lost count of how many times I've failed. But each failure taught me one thing. If you keep pushing long enough, even the universe starts to move aside for you. I don't know what the future will bring. Maybe Mars, maybe AI, maybe something we can't even imagine yet. But I know this. The people who will shape that future are the ones who never stop trying. If you're listening to this and you have a dream, don't wait for permission. Build it. Fail. Try again. Keep moving. Because someday someone will look back and call you lucky. But you'll know the truth. You were just unstoppable.